To be immersed means to feel completely involved in something, to perceive ourselves as completely surrounded by stimuli. Therefore, immersive audio is to be completely involved, surrounded by sound. It is commonly called three-dimensional audio, but is immersive audio the same as a three-dimensional sound experience? In fact, in the reality, every experience of sound is by definition three-dimensional. Our perception of sound is three-dimensional in itself, which is why we can more or less accurately determine the position of the sound source in the surrounding space. Conduct a simple experiment. Choose a sound and focus on it with your eyes closed. After a brief period of concentration, you will likely notice how accurately you can determine the direction of the sound and its approximate distance from you. This exercise demonstrates the remarkable ability of the auditory system to localize sound in space. So, what defines an immersive experience today? Paradoxically, the answer lies in how well it mimics reality. What truly sets an immersive audio apart is that it creates an auditory illusion, placing us in a different physical context than the one we are currently in. Is technology the only way to create an immersive sound experience? Not really. It is more about the interaction between us and the sound sources in a given space than about how the sources are created or manipulated. Every experience is inherently immersive. But, again, it is the concept of illusion what counts. Technological means are usually the more efficient way to create the illusion of being in another space, and perception of sound has a great influence on the perception of an illusion as real. Immersive audio is a powerful tool for enhancing the emotional impact of music and storytelling, particularly in formats such as radio theater, podcasts, audiobooks, gaming, VR, and other sound-focused media. What most characterizes immersive audio is the perception of depth, distance, responsiveness to our position in space, and multi-dimensionality. Realistic audio enhances presence, which is the physiological sensation of being within a space. Our auditory system is evolutionarily adapted to detect and localize sounds in three-dimensional space, even when visual information is absent. This ability is crucial for survival, identifying threats, locating food, or navigating in the dark. Because sound surrounds us, it provides a continuous stream of spatial information, which can create or enhance the sense of being in a space. Unlike vision, which is directional and limited to the field of view, hearing is omnidirectional. You can perceive sounds from all around, including above and below, giving you a sense of spatial enclosure or immersiveness. Auditory cues help the brain to build a mental model of the environment, even with limited visual input. Consider, for example, the experience of being in a church. The long reverberation time is one element that immediately places in that experience. Compared to the experience of being in a small room, there is a lot of auditory information that is completely different. Therefore, to create an immersive space that is engaging and transporting, you need to create a realistic sound experience. For this, we have to consider something called multisensory integration. While both vision and hearing contribute to presence, auditory cues often dominate. Sound confirms visual information. If you see a bird and hear a chirping in the correct location, the two modalities reinforce each other, enhancing the sense of presence. Sounds can contradict visual information. When visual and auditory information conflict, auditory cues often take precedence. The phenomenon where auditory cues take precedence over visual information during a conflict is rooted in the way our brain processes sensory inputs and prioritizes them for survival and decision making. This interplay, often described as auditory dominance, is context dependent but reveals the unique power of sound in shaping our perception of the world. Several factors contribute to the dominance of auditory cues in conflicting situations. 360-degree perception. Unlike vision, which is limited to the field of view, hearing provides omnidirectional awareness. This makes sounds a more reliable source for detecting events outside of the line of sight. Temporal precision. The auditory system processes changes in the environment almost instantaneously, while the visual system takes longer to interpret and integrate new stimuli. For example, a sudden loud bang will capture attention faster than a subtle visual cue. Evolutionary adaptation. Survival often dependent on detecting and reacting to auditory threats, such as rustling leaves signaling a predator maybe, even when visual confirmation was unavailable or ambiguous. Our brain is remarkably adept at mapping spatial information using auditory cues. While auditory perception may not match vision in detail, its strengths lie in omnidirectional awareness, rapid processing, and spatial precision. These abilities make sound a fundamental sense for understanding and navigating the world, particularly in conditions where visual input is limited or absent. What distinguishes auditory perception apart is the speed of processing. We hear a map space faster than we see it, allowing us to react to our surroundings almost instantaneously. In contrast to vision, which often requires directed focus, hearing is constantly active, passively gathering information from all directions. This makes it uniquely suited to perceive what lies beyond our visual reach, such as occluded objects, sounds originating behind us, or distant sources outside our field of view. This omnidirectional continuous nature of hearing ensures we remain aware of our environment even in the absence of visual input, reinforcing its vital role in spatial awareness and navigation. These factors make audio a powerful means of enhancing emotional resonance and creating more engaging and immersive experiences. It is not surprising, therefore, that throughout history, sound has been considered an important element and has been incorporated into buildings of various types as a means of reinforcing their political, social, and spiritual function. From Greek and Roman theaters to ceremonial and ritual buildings of indigenous cultures in Latin America, to Gothic and Renaissance cathedrals in Europe, for instance. Also, the incorporation of space in musical practice is something common in many cultures. Mexican canto cardenche, Cuban throat singing, Hawaiian Oli chant, Aymaran Quechua rituals, powwow songs of Native American culture, Tibetan Buddhist chants and horns, Mongolian long songs, and, of course, psalmody in Catholic and Jewish rituals. The trend of immersive audio can be seen as a return to auditory realism, overcoming the limitations of early recording methods to create experiences that closely align with how we naturally perceive sound. By incorporating spatial and directional details, immersive audio narrows the gap between past technological constraints and our innate way of hearing, immersing listeners in soundscapes that feel as vivid and dynamic as the real world. In a broader perspective, we can say that immersive audio moves away from early recording limitations. Early recording and playback technologies, such as phonographs and monophonic systems, were inherently limited in their ability to replicate the spatial characteristics of sound. They capture audio in a highly compressed and centralized manner, often losing the nuances of directionality and depth. Immersive audio reconnects with natural hearing. Immersive audio aims to recreate a more lifelike auditory environment by simulating spatial characteristics such as directionality, distance, and acoustic context. This aligns with how we naturally perceive sound in real life, with our auditory system processing spatial cues to play sounds in a three-dimensional environment. Immersive audio relies on the evolution of technology. Over time, audio technology has evolved to bridge the gap between recorded sound and the experience of being physically present. Innovations like stereo, surround sound, and now immersive formats, Dolby Atmos, binaural audio, ambisonics, DTS, progressively aim to replicate the realism of natural hearing. Immersive audio also poses a philosophical shift. While early recordings were often focused on preserving or reproducing music or speech for posterity, prioritizing content over context, immersive audio shifts the focus to creating an experience, situating listeners within a soundscape rather than presenting a detached recording. This experiential emphasis feels more aligned with the way sound exists and real-world environments. Not necessarily, in my opinion, but it certainly represents a different and exciting approach that could lead to new opportunities for creators, artists, and audiences. Stereo has been the dominant format for decades, and during that time, countless techniques and tools have been developed to create highly engaging and effective audio experiences within its constraints. For example, dynamic processors shape the tonal balance and impact of audio. Mixing consoles allow intricate layering and spatial arrangement within the stereo field, and multi-track recording enables precise control over individual elements of a mix. These innovations were designed specifically for stereo productions, making it a sophisticated and firmly established standard in music and audio production. Many of these techniques were developed not only as solutions to technical limitations, but also as expressive tools to enhance the emotional and artistic depth of music. This dual purpose reflects how stereo has evolved into a powerful format capable of delivering both technical precision and creative richness, creating experiences that are native to the unique characteristics of the stereo format. Just think on some of your most preferred artists' recordings. The refinement of musical and sound production nowadays is absolutely astonishing. But, in my opinion, this return to realism presents a great opportunity for those who can develop, as was done with the stereo format, native experiences tailored to the immersive approach to sound, which in fact compresses several different formats known by their commercial or technical names: ambisonics, Dolby Atmos, binaural, DTS, Aura 3D, wavefield synthesis, Sony 360 reality audio, etc. Ideally, an immersive sound experience should be transportive, engaging, sensory and emotional, and responsive, interactive, or adaptive. Immersive sound should create a heightened sense of presence and realism, engaging listeners with audio that feels spatially dynamic and lifelike. These are some key features that define immersive audio. Directional sound placement. Audio sources are positioned in three-dimensional space, allowing listeners to perceive sound from specific directions: above, below, around. Sound localization. The ability to pinpoint where a sound is coming from enhances realism and the sense of presence. 360 degrees sound field. Listeners feel fully surrounded by sound, creating a sense of being enveloped. Height channel. Immersive formats include vertical audio dimensions, adding depth and realism. Realistic soundscapes, mimicking real-world sound behaviors like reflections, reverberations, and environmental acoustics. Psychoacoustics, leveraging how the brain interprets spatial and directional cues to craft convincing auditory illusions. Interactive audio, sounds that adapt to listener movements, particularly in the context of VR, gaming, and AR environments. Immersive storytelling, spatial audio placement draws listeners into narratives, making them feel like participants rather than observers. Quite important. Heightened emotional impact. Realism and depth create powerful emotional connections with experience. Together, these characteristics make immersive sound transformative, delivering a sense of being there that surpasses traditional audio formats. To define the differences between Dolby Atmos, ambisonics, Apple spatial audio, etc., it is essential to first explain some key aspects of them. There are many misconceptions about immersive audio, partly due to the proprietary technologies and brand-specific requirements for how sound is processed in their devices to create a final version of the production. The different application focuses of each format also add to the confusion. There are also misunderstandings surrounding the terminology: immersive audio, spatial audio, 3D audio, AD audio, binaural audio, holophonic audio. In my opinion, most of these terms are more or less interchangeable. However, some, like holophonic audio, are associated with specific recording techniques, while others, like binaural audio, always refer to sound designed to be listened to through headphones, among other technical and specific considerations. The main differences between immersive audio formats such as Dolby Atmos, Apple Spatial Audio, Match 1, ambisonics, Sony 360 Reality Audio, Facebook 360, Auro 3D, DTSX lie in their audio architecture, application focus, and delivery methods. Audio architecture refers to the design and structure of how sound is created, processed, and experienced within a space or system. It involves shaping soundscapes to enhance how we perceive and interact with audio, whether in physical spaces like concert halls or digital environments like games or VR. It combines technical, artistic, and spatial elements to craft a meaningful experience. There are three main architectures, or it is possible to say three: mixing, the craft of blending different sources or instruments into a production, three mixing types: channel-based, object-based, and scene-based formats. Stereo is the most familiar example. With two speakers, the mix is created in two channels. one for each speaker, left and right. Surround sound, 5.1, 7.1. In a 5.1 system, there are 6 channels corresponding to 6 speakers. Left, right, center, 2 surrounds, rear left and rear right. And one subwoofer, the point one, also known as the low frequency effects channel. Each channel is mixed specifically for its speaker, meaning the sound intended for the center speaker must always come from the center, the front channels from the front, and so on. Height channels. In configurations like 7.1.2, the numbers indicate 7 main speakers around the listener, front, side, and rear, 1 subwoofer channel for low frequencies, 2 height channels for the vertical axis delivered through ceiling mounted or upward firing speakers, those sounds that come from above. Examples of these common formats include Dolby Surround, Auro 3D, and DTS:X. Important, as these systems rely on a fixed spatial arrangement, this limits flexibility but ensures consistent playback quality across setups. Whatever is specified during production will come from the same speaker in the same configuration. Bits and objects are foundational concepts that define how audio is organized and mixed for immersive experiences. Object-based audio focuses on individual sound elements or objects that are positioned dynamically in a 3D space rather than tied to 2 specific channels. Each sound source is treated as a distinct object, allowing precise spatial placement and dynamic movement over time. For example, a person who is speaking or singing while moving, or any element that produces sounds while moving. Beds are static audio channels that provide the foundational layer of the soundscape. They typically include ambient or background sounds that remain stationary, following traditional channel-based mixing principles such as stereo or surround sound. Key features of the object-based approach to mixing. Dynamic adaptation. Sounds adapt to various playback systems, ensuring a consistent experience whether on headphones, a stereo setup, or a multi-channel configuration like 7.1.2. Flexibility. Unlike fixed channel-based formats, object-based audio allows for seamless playback across diverse speaker configurations, offering greater versatility. Examples of some common formats that utilize object-based approaches include Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, and Sony 360 Reality Audio. Consider scene-based formats as a sound field representation. These formats are designed to capture and represent an entire sound field as a cohesive scene, where all the spatial relationships, such as the positioning, movement, and interaction of sounds, are encoded together. Unlike object-based formats that focus on individual sound elements or objects in a dynamic 3D space, scene-based formats aim to reproduce the full auditory environment from a specific point of view. This approach is less about isolating or independently controlling each sound source and more about creating an immersive representation of how sound behaves in a real-world or virtual environment. In other words, scene-based formats are concerned with the entire sound environment, how sounds interact, blend, and create a unified auditory experience from all directions, front, back, above, below, and around. This type of audio representations captures the complete sonic space as a single entity, encoding the overall spatial and temporal relationships within the sound field. The key distinction here is that while object-based formats focus on treating each sound source, like a person speaking or a moving car, as an individual object that can be placed or moved independently, Scene-based formats, on the contrary, record not just the sounds but also the spatial data about their positions, directions, and movements within the scene. This means the sound is not just about individual sources but also about the broader context in which those sounds exist, how they interact with the environment, and how the listener perceives them from a particular vantage point. These formats aim to recreate the full auditory experience of an environment, encoding how sounds interact and blend in space rather than isolating individual objects. This makes scene-based formats ideal for immersive experience like 360-degree videos, VR, and AR, where the aim is to make the listener feel fully immersed in the environment. Scene-based formats typically require specialized decoding for playback on different speaker configurations or headphones. For instance, ambisonics or Facebook 360 may need conversion to be properly rendered on various setups like binaural, stereo, or multi-channel systems. Although they aim for full immersion, they can adapt across different playback systems by recalculating and rearranging the sound to fit the specific playback setup, headphones, multi-speaker setups, or VR headsets. Examples of scene-based formats include ambisonics and Facebook 360, both of which are used extensively in VR, AR, and 360-degree video for immersive audio experiences. You may have heard of a format that is quite common these days called binaural audio. This is actually an audio technique that simulates how humans naturally perceive sound in the world around them. It takes into account how the shape of the head, ears, and upper body affects the way sound travels and is heard from different directions. When sounds are captured or processed using binaural techniques, they are modified with specific filters called head-related transfer functions, HRTF. These filters mimic the way sound waves interact with the body before reaching the ears, creating a realistic spatial experience. The primary goal of binaural audio is to make listeners feel as if they are immersed in a sound environment, where sounds come from the scene around them instead of feeling as if they are being produced inside their head, which can happen with regular stereo sound. To achieve this, binaural sound is typically designed to be listened to with headphones, while each ear receives a slightly different version of the sound, just like in real life, providing a convincing sense of directionality, depth, and distance. Immersive audio formats like Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, and Auro 3D dominate in cinema and home theater settings. These formats are optimized for multi-speaker configurations and are designed to create a surround sound experience that envelops the listener. The aim is to make the audience feel as if they are part of the action, with sounds placed dynamically around them, enhancing the visual and emotional aspects of the cinematic experience. Formats such as Sony 360 Reality Audio, Apple Spatial Audio, and Dolby Atmos Music are tailored for music production and streaming applications. These formats provide an immersive listening experience, often optimized for headphones, where sound can move around the listeners. This allows for more intricate soundscapes and richer emotional engagement, enabling artists and producers to craft spatially immersive audio environments. Formats such as ambisonics, Facebook 360, and Atmoki play a key role in VR, AR, and 360 video, where creating a fully immersive spherical sound environment is essential. These formats replicate the experience of being physically present in a space, with sound dynamically responding to the listener's movement and changes in perspective. Gaming formats like Atmoki, Dolby Atmos, and DTS:X are increasingly integrated into video games to create immersive 3D sound environments. These formats allow sound to move naturally around the player, responding to their actions and in-game scenarios. Admoc in particular emphasizes head tracking and object-based audio to replicate realistic spatial sound in virtual environments, enhancing player immersion and engagement in games. Live performance and real-time adaptation. Match 1 is a dynamic format suited for live performances, installations, and other real-time audio applications. It allows for sound to adjust fluidly in response to changing environments such as audience movement or changes in physical setups. This adaptability ensures that sound remains consistent and responsive, providing an engaging, interactive experience in performance contexts where the environment is in constant flux. Immersive audio has the potential to revolutionize storytelling by introducing a more nuanced, interactive, and spatial approach to narrative construction. Traditional storytelling often unfolds linearly, offering the audience a fixed perspective. Immersive storytelling breaks these conventions by inviting the audience to experience the narrative from multiple perspectives, shifting their role from passive observer to active participant. In my view, the shift from passive receptor to active participant in the story's environment is where the most interesting opportunities for arts and culture lie, for two main reasons: the impact on perception and transporting the audience. Immersive storytelling has the unique ability to dissolve the boundaries between the audience and the narrative. By engaging multiple senses, primarily sound, sight, but maybe smell, touch, it creates environments that feel real and immediate. This ability to transport the audience allows for deep emotional connections. Unlike traditional storytelling, immersive storytelling do more than ask the audience to imagine. They place them within the narrative. By engaging our senses and creating a sense of presence, these experiences make the motion and realities of the story feel immediate and personal. Have you been in a refugee camp? Can you do time travel? Have you ever been part of your favorite story? Hypothetically, this and much more could be experienced through immersive media. Through the fostering of empathy and the creation of deeper emotional connections, perhaps greater social change can be achieved. Second, a frontier of creative opportunity. Because immersive storytelling is still relatively new and evolving, there is so much unexplored territory for creators. This is an exciting time where experimentation can define the techniques, tools, and their applications. Is it possible that immersive storytelling offers an unparalleled opportunity to pioneer new aesthetics and even entirely new art disciplines? Think of the past, when artists created new disciplines by using new tools: video art, photography, cinema. Immersive storytelling has the potential to transcend traditional conventions, allowing creators to explore innovative ways of creating experiences that engage the senses and emotions on a profound level. From my perspective, there are three key elements to consider when thinking about immersive storytelling: space, interactivity, and multisensory dimensions. Let me conclude with two additional considerations. From my point of view, immersive audio has the potential to transform the ways we experience storytelling, art, and culture by opening new dimensions of sensory engagement, but it raises also critical questions about access and inclusivity. How can we ensure that immersive technologies, often developed with proprietary systems or costly tools, remain accessible? And how can creators extend their reach to those who face barriers be they technological, economic, or physical. This talk explores not only the creative potential of immersive audio, but also the ethical constraints of designing tools, systems, and narratives that reflect values of inclusivity. By focusing on open source solutions and fostering access to foundational technologies, we can empower communities to build their own systems, guided by principles that extend beyond commercial gain. To avoid the risk of replicating the same barriers and inequalities that divide communities and individuals today in other scenarios, we need to foster a more equitable creative ecosystem by ensuring that the foundational technologies behind immersive storytelling are accessible to all. It's not merely about simplifying tools, but more importantly, in my opinion, about providing access to the foundational technologies themselves, empowering people to build, adapt, and modify their own systems. By prioritizing open source solutions and community-driven development, we empower creators to build innovative experiences that reflect diverse perspectives. In this way, value creation can support not only individual success, but also the collective growth of the community, where tools and resources are continually reinvested into the ecosystem, ensuring a more sustainable and inclusive development of the medium. There is another issue of concern as well. When designing immersive audio experiences, it is important to ensure physical access for people with disabilities to make these experiences available to a wider audience. For people with hearing impairments, the design can include options such as adding visual cues, such as captions or sound visualizations, alongside the audio to allow them to perceive the spatial audio in a meaningful way. Additionally, tactile feedback such as vibrations can be incorporated to allow users to physically feel the sound and its movement, creating a multisensory experience that compensates for the lack of auditory perception. For people with mobility impairments, it is important to consider how they will navigate and interact with the immersive environment, designing experiences that allow for minimal physical movement, such as options for seated participation or remote control, ensures that mobility challenges do not become a barrier. Alternative interaction methods, such as voice control, eye tracking, or adaptive devices, can provide access for users who are unable to engage using traditional input methods. By integrating these solutions, creators can ensure that immersive audio experiences are not just accessible, but inclusive of people with a wide range of physical disabilities. This approach helps create environments where all individuals, regardless of their physical limitations, can fully engage with and enjoy the transformative potential of immersive storytelling and sound.